All right, so section 4.2, Mesopotamia, a difficult environment. Now, obviously, you want to look at your text features, and that includes any pictures, maps, definitions, but just the title alone gives us an idea of what this section is going to be about. And it's that the area that we're talking about, Mesopotamia, is a difficult environment. It's tough to live there. So, as always, if you need to pause to highlight, you're more than welcome. You work at your own pace, but I'm gonna read, and if at any point you do need to pause, just go ahead. I'll still be here when you get back. All right, here we go. Mesopotamia was not an easy place to live. No duh. Title told us that. The northern part was hilly and received rain. So that's important. We have that the northern part is hilly and receives rain. That's important. Crops need rain. You need crops for a stable food supply. The southern part, which is the part we're talking about, if you remember, Sumer is the southern part of Mesopotamia. Part was low plains or flat land, and the sun beat down fiercely on the plains between the Tigris and Euphrates River. So we want to highlight that the sun beat down fiercely. Fiercely is an intense word, and we know that the sun beating down may not be good, dries things out. And there we see those rivers again where our area takes place, in between the Tigris and the Euphrates River. Those are very important words that you just need to get used to either saying and understanding where the location was. So in between the Tigris and Euphrates River, there was little rain. Go ahead and highlight that. The Mesopotamians were farmers, and farms need water. Duh. The rivers brought water to the plains when they flooded. Very important. Right here, I'm going to highlight that. But for most of the year, the soil was hard and dry. Not good for planting. Hard and dry soil. On the plains, building materials were difficult to find. There were plenty of reeds, which are weeds that grow near rivers, but there were few trees to provide wood. If you look at everything that's built before the invention or the invention of building with metal, everything needed to be built with wood. And just having reeds is not going to be good enough. So this is actually a feature of the environment. So we want to highlight that. Plenty of reeds, which we know is not good for building. So back to reading. Even stones were scarce. Scarce means there weren't a lot. And there were few natural barriers to keep out enemies. So we want to highlight stones were scarce and few natural barriers. Now we have barriers that we build. We build walls. You build different things. Now we have houses. And barriers keep out enemies or animals as well. And being that there's no few natural barriers, that causes a problem. Now, when you think natural barrier, I don't want you to think of wall. Think of natural walls. What's a natural wall? A mountain. A mountain is a natural barrier. If I have to cross a desert to get to you, that's a natural barrier. If I need to cross an ocean to get to you, that's a natural barrier. When you think of America, all we have is Canada, is Canada, don't say Canada, is Canada to the north, and then Mexico to the south. And then we're surrounded by water. We're surrounded by two huge oceans. So it's actually worked out to America's benefit. So being that lower, southern, right here, Mesopotamia, had few natural barriers is actually a problem. And now what I want you to do is I'm going to do a little bit of typing and a little bit of writing and a little bit of everything. I'm going to draw a line right here. So all of this area, all of this is actually related to, and don't, obviously this isn't where I want you to write it, it's just popping up as I type, Mesopotamia's geography. So all of this is related to Mesopotamia's geography. Oh no. So I'm going to move, I need the pointer, don't I? So I'm going to move this back over. I'm going to get the pointer, select, right? And then I'm going to get the pointer here. I'm going to drag that over. So all of this, which is important, is part of the Mesopotamian geography. So make sure you write that down because this kind of breaks off the section and tells us that this area is part of how Mesopotamia was shaped. All right, so I'm going to go back to reading. A little bit of chaos there with the writing. I'm going to go back to reading and highlighting. Let me get my highlighter here. All right, here we go. So Mesopotamians faced 4 key problems as they tried to survive in this environment. And you can see there's bullets here. So they're going to list for us the problems, and we're going to do some highlighting. So 1, there were food shortages in the hills. Not a lot of food. in the hills. Not good. 2, there was an uncontrolled water supply on the plains. When you think now, if you need water, you go to the sink. If you don't go to the sink, you have bottled water, or you can go to the store and buy water. If you don't have a river or oceans or anything near you, obviously you can't drink an ocean, but if you don't have a water supply near you, then that's a problem. Now you're like, Mr. James, they're in between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. I understand that. And we're going to talk about what they mean by uncontrolled. But that's good thinking if you were thinking that. The third problem, they had difficulties in building and maintaining their irrigation systems. I'm going to highlight this over here because it's a definition. An irrigation system is a means of supplying land with water. If you ever drive past a farm and you see a sprinkler system going by, that's an irrigation system. And these serve the needs of several villagers at once. And they also have problems with attacks by neighboring communities. One time, Mesopotamians found solutions to these problems. And we're going to explore how the solutions led to the building of some of the first cities in the world. But first, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to get another line here. And then I'm going to type. So these were the key problems that they had. These 4 things in bullets. And I just wrote that there just so you have something to look at. So you can kind of point it out. These were the key problems. Now, if you're looking at your text, you'll see there's a little map here. I believe I put the map here. So here we go. We have mountains up north. But if you look at all these little cities, they're all down south of the Tigris and Euphrates. You see the Tigris right here, the Euphrates right here. I'm actually going to highlight those. You don't have to highlight them if you want to. Be my guest. So we have the Tigris and the Euphrates, and then we have all of these cities right here. That's where the cities are located. I know we have one up here, but that's a Neolithic farming community if you look at the map key. And they kind of come into an important role because you need to know where it's located. And you look, here's the Persian Gulf. So they're right near the Persian Gulf. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about in this section. We're going to talk about the different problems that Mesopotamians had and how they got over the obstacles of having a very tough environment to live in. So now let's look at the notes. So it says right here that you need to list 5 words or phrases that characterize the geography of Mesopotamia. Circle the one characteristic that might pose the biggest challenge to people living there. In a complete sentence, explain why you chose this characteristic. So there's actually 3 things you need to do. All right, so the first thing is you need to list 5 words or phrases that characterize the geography of Mesopotamia, meaning describe Mesopotamia. You need to circle the one that you feel might be the biggest challenge, and then you need to write a sentence why you chose that as being the biggest challenge. So if you run out of space, you can always use an extra piece of paper. But you need to, your assignment now is to go through, look through the text that you highlighted and answer the questions, the different questions that are here, the directions that are here for you. List the 5 words, circle the one that's the biggest challenge, and then write a sentence why you chose that. And then I will meet you back here for section 4.3, and we'll keep on rocking. Good luck.